guys, it's Charity from A Loop and a Hook, and today I wanted to film a video talking about my birth story, and this is kind of like a follow-up video to my birth video. There's not a lot of talking in that and explanation of what happened, so just wanted to film another video that kind of explained everything that happened and, you know, kind of some of the highlights that I thought there were throughout the birth, and also explain some of the things that, you know, there was reference made to in my birth video, but wasn't explained in detail. So if you haven't already watched my birth video, I will link that in the description below, so you guys can go check that out and watch that after you watch this video, so you kind of get the whole picture of what happened with my birth. So before I went into actual labor, I had 3 days of prodromal labor, 3 separate individual days in the 2 weeks leading up to me giving birth to Katelyn. So the first time was over 30, it was like 32 hours of prodromal labor, and I actually talked about that in my last pregnancy update video. And we did call the midwife. We had her come up here. She was here all night. Prodromal labor started. It was in the early morning, and it lasted all day. I called my midwife, and she, you know, kept it on, or didn't think that she needed to come up right away, but she did end up coming up to our apartment around, I think it was right around 11 o'clock, and she stayed all night. She thought I was progressing. She didn't check me until it was like after I had gone and taken a nap. So around 7 I took a nap, or like 7 in the morning I took a nap, and they woke me up around 9 to just check on baby, see how things were going, and by that point contractions had almost completely stopped. And she checked me, I was at 0, so there was nothing happening. They all left. When they did check me and feel where the baby was, there was a concern that the baby was head down, or head up, not head down, but butt down, head up. So because of that, they wanted me to go get an ultrasound done that day, which I did go get. Everything looked good on there, and that actually is something that was a little bit interesting, given other details of the birth in like 2 weeks after that. I was still having contractions that entire week, and then Sunday they really started to pick up again. I had them all day. They would get stronger when I was doing things, but then once it started getting, you know, it was like 10, 11 at night, they kind of fizzled out and nothing happened. So my midwife knew I was having the contractions that day. I had texted her, and after they fizzled out again, she diagnosed me with an irritable uterus. So because I was diagnosed with that, I kind of had to lay a little bit lower and just take things easy for a bit. So that wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but it was, you know, it was something that was uncomfortable, constantly having contractions, and anytime I tried to do anything, the contraction would start up again, and they would start getting really intense, and then they would die out. I did have one more day of prodromal labor on Wednesday. Same thing, fizzled out, was nothing. So when I actually started labor, I think I knew I was in labor because it felt so different from all the prodromal labor that I had. So contractions started on February 10th at like 10:30 at night. really strong. This one, the first one, came completely out of the blue. I hadn't really had contractions all day. Earlier in the day, I had gone to a chowder fest near us, so I had walked around all day. I probably walked 2 miles, 2.5 miles, because at that point I was just determined to get baby out. I was tired of being pregnant, so it obviously worked because I ended up having the baby the next day. But contractions started around 10:30. They continued throughout the night, and they were very intense contractions. They were not little baby contractions. They were really intense. They felt so different from all of my prodromal contractions. So all night they kept ticking along. I did not sleep well that night because I could feel all of the contractions the whole night. I know I was sleeping, but I also don't think I was sleeping so soundly because I could feel them. And when I woke up, I knew I had been having contractions all night because I just remember feeling them, but don't really remember anything else about that night. So I think I was like semi-awake, but still sleeping. So I woke up around 6 a.m., still ticking along with contractions. I tried timing them, and I was so tired that I would start timing them and then fall asleep and then wake up like a half hour later to my contraction timer still sitting on my stomach and still timing, even though I had already had multiple other contractions during that time. I was just so tired that I just needed my sleep. So timing them really wasn't working well. But I woke up around 9-ish after taking like a little nap and started timing them, and they were right around 7 to 8 minutes apart. So they weren't super close together yet, but they were definitely ticking along. They were over a minute in duration. So definitely good contractions. Ended up going back to bed, taking another like hour and a half nap around 10 in the morning. My mom did come up just to sit with me and Colin because the midwife does live around 45 minutes away, so it does take a little while for her to get here. We felt better knowing that she was here in case anything were to happen because she has training to deliver babies, so we felt better knowing she was here. Also, as you know, somebody who could encourage Colin, encourage me throughout the whole labor process. So I ended up waking up from that nap probably around noon-ish. Contractions were still ticking along. Timed them again. They're still around that 7-8 minute mark. They're getting closer to the 6 minute mark at the 7 and 6 minute mark, but they were still, some of them were 8 minutes apart. For the next like 2 hours, they kept getting a little bit closer together. So at noon, I texted my midwife and told her, hey, I'm having contractions. This is, what's going on. They're like 7-8 minutes apart at this point. So she decided not to come yet, but I called her at 2 o'clock. Actually, Colin called her at 2 o'clock and just told her, things are moving along. I couldn't focus through contractions anymore, and she did decide to start coming our direction because things were progressing. So she ended up getting to the house around 3 o'clock. She checked me, checked baby. Everything was good with baby. She checked me and I was at 4 centimeters, so we were definitely moving in the right direction, which was a good thing because when I got checked the first time with the prodromal labor being at 0, that was super discouraging for me. So being at 4 centimeters, I felt like I was moving in the right direction. I did take another nap around 4 because I was so tired from not really sleeping at night the night before. So I took that nap. I woke up probably around 5:30 and nothing had petered out. They were just as strong and, strong and consistent as they were before I went and took my nap. I sat and I bounced on a ball for about a half hour, give or take. at which point I moved to hands and knees in our living room. And that was a good position. I liked how it felt, but nothing was, I was still progressing and still dilating, so I wasn't actively pushing. But after being on hands and knees for, it was right around an hour and a half, my wrists and my hands and my knees were all super sore from being there. So around 8 o'clock, my midwife was like, you know, you probably should get up, you should go to the bathroom, see if that progresses anything anymore. I did not want to do that in the least because of the pain I was in. Didn't feel like moving or doing anything like that. But she eventually convinced me to do that. Around 8 o'clock, I went to the bathroom, and when I was walking back out, my water broke. So definitely was a good thing I did do that, because after I went to the bathroom, I think the baby dropped and pushed enough for my water to break. So after my water broke, we switched positions and went in our bedroom so I could lay on our bed. Now, going into labor, laboring on my back was something I did not want to do. But after, you know, being on hands and knees and getting worn out and, you know, being super tired that way, we all decided that that was probably going to be the best position. So I did end up doing that, even though that was something that I initially did not want to do. So I started pushing around 8:50, and like I was trying to push before 8:50, but I was being more vocal. And instead of putting my energy into pushing, I was putting more of my energy into making noise. And once my midwife finally, you know, was like, you need to start pushing this way, really coaching me through labor and pushing and everything like that, then things really started progressing. So around 8:50 was when I started pushing. That was probably the worst part of the whole labor, was pushing, just the pain, the ring of fire, all of that stuff. It was just very painful, not fun, but a necessary part of labor. Katelyn was delivered at 9:14. But one thing you'll watch when you watch the birth video, right before she was born and right when her head is coming out, you can hear my midwife say something, and then the assistant goes, "How rude." And Katelyn was born with her hand up by her face. So she was born with a Nuchal hand. So that could have also been something that made labor take a little bit longer, just because that hand's not supposed to be there. But that was not the end of the world. So she was delivered, everything was good. About 15-20 minutes, give or take, after I delivered Katelyn, I was delivering the placenta, and my midwife was giving the cord a little bit of a tug to try to get the placenta to release. And when she did that, the cord popped off the placenta, with the placenta still attached, or still inside of me. So that was not something that was really good. My midwife actually had never seen that before, but when she looked at the placenta further, she realized and found out that the cord insertion was not where it was supposed to be. It was in the bag of waters and right on the very edge of the placenta. Normally in like a really healthy placenta, it's in the middle of the placenta. So because of it was on the very edge, that's why it just popped right off. But that was something that was interesting to us, because I had had the 2 different ultrasounds, and I had had the one a week and a half before, and they looked at the placenta, they looked at the insertion, and they never said anything or saw that there was that problem. And that's something that's commonly picked up on an ultrasound. So that was something that was interesting, given the fact that I had had ultrasounds and that was never found. Now, in a way, it was really nice not to know that there was that potential problem with the placenta, because I know for myself I would have stressed out about it more, and I was stressed enough throughout the pregnancy for a couple of different reasons, and you could tell on my placenta that there were lots of calcifications and things like that, and knowing that there was something wrong with my placenta would have made it worse, made the stress worse. So for that reason, I'm kind of thankful we didn't know about it, because it would have added that extra stress. But if they had found it, it would have led to like weekly ultrasounds, weekly, or I think it was like, my midwife said it would have been like twice a week fetal monitoring, and probably not a home delivery. So there were pros, there were cons, and you know, I am thankful looking back that I didn't know, because I would have stressed out about it. And there's not really anything you can really do to prevent it or fix it. It's just kind of a fluky thing. So everything worked out in the end. We're all thankful about that, but it definitely was something that was not expected with the delivery. So you'll see in the birth video that my entire family decided to come up. I actually asked them if they wanted to come up after, like, a half hour after giving birth, so they could all see Katelyn and meet her for the first time. And that was actually really, really cool, just being able to have them meet her so, well, she was like just born. That was something that was very special for me, I think for everyone else, especially for Hannah, who absolutely loved meeting Katelyn. And in the video, I believe I left this in there, that Dad says that all the way up the street, she was just going, baby, baby, baby. So she was super, super excited, super good. It was a good bonding time, and that was probably one of my favorite, or probably still is, one of my favorite memories of the entire birth. So during that first week, the first night went pretty well. You know, I tried breastfeeding. They showed me how to, you know, nurse and things like that, and I thought everything was going good with that. The midwife came back the next day, and, you know, everything was good. Then the midwife came back on Wednesday, so 3 days later, and did a weight check. She was right on that cusp of the 10% weight loss, but my milk was coming in. They weren't concerned about it. And then they came back on Friday, and when they came back to weigh her on Friday, she had lost more weight. So she was born at 7 pounds 10 ounces, and by Friday she was down to 6 pounds 7 ounces. So my midwife was obviously very concerned about that. My milk had come in, so it wasn't a lack of not having supply. Katelyn wasn't latching, and she was fooling all of us. I thought she was latching. My midwife even thought she was latching, but when she really looked at it, she was dimpling, so she wasn't fully sucking the whole nipple and latching. So she wasn't really getting any food. After we figured out that she wasn't latching well, my midwife tried working on getting her to latch. But in the meantime, while we were working on that, she did have me pump every 2 hours, and then Katelyn had to get a bottle every 2 hours. So it was a lot of, you know, extra work. Definitely something that was worth it, so she could get food, because she was very, very hungry. And it was, you know, it wasn't a bad thing. It was just something that took a lot of time, something I wasn't really prepared for, because going into it, I thought, you know, there wouldn't be problems or anything like that. So that was definitely something I was not expecting. So we did that for 2 days, where every 2 hours I was pumping, I was trying to get her to latch, and feeding her a bottle. And the midwife's assistant came back on Sunday, so 2 days later, and she weighed her, and her weight was up to 7 pounds 4 ounces. So they were super, super happy. They said I didn't have to pump, unless obviously I had too much supply, and then we could stop bottle feeding her. So that was really good news. We were really happy about that. We went down to the midwife, I think it was 2 days later, and 2 days later she was back up to birth weight, which they were super, super happy with, because normally they want babies to get back up to birth weight within 2 weeks of being born. And Katelyn had lost the extra weight, and it was only 9 days since she had 9 or 10 days since she had been born. So they were all super happy with that. Definitely a good thing. And we're really happy, because if she had been more jaundiced on that Friday when they found out she still had lost more weight, if she had been more jaundiced or, you know, kind of lethargic, anything like that, we would have had to take her to the hospital to get her checked out, to get her fluids in her. But she wasn't really jaundiced at all, which was a really good thing. And my midwife was actually a little bit surprised, especially with her not nursing well at all, that she wasn't more jaundiced than she was. So overall, the first week was pretty good. I mean, it was a little bit sad for me, having the problems with breastfeeding, and then, you know, I felt bad because I didn't pick up that she wasn't latching, and all of that, all the normal motherly stuff that comes with, you know, labor, delivery, postpartum, all of that stuff, you know, pretty normal. But I definitely experienced that. I am going to be doing a video about postpartum, so be sure to stay tuned for that video. That probably will be out in a couple of weeks, as I'm currently only 5 weeks postpartum. But that is pretty much my entire birth story. Thankfully nothing too out of the ordinary, which we're very thankful for. We're thankful that everything went really well. One thing I did forget to mention is that my midwife is absolutely amazing. Without her assisting me with the delivery, I think I would have torn really, really badly. But with her and with all of her coaching and everything that she did, I only had 2 very slight tears that didn't even need stitches or anything like that. So that's something I was super thankful for, because going into labor and delivery, that was probably the thing I was most concerned about, was needing stitches, tearing, because I'm friends and I know people who over the past year or so have had babies and they've all torn really badly, and that was just something that really, really scared me going into labor and delivery. So thank you all for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you haven't watched my birth video yet, I will put that in the description and also at the end of this video, so you guys can go check that out. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you for our next video. Bye!